back to the channel. It is NBA draft season. We're getting right into it. If you want to go see my draft reaction to the lottery as a Rockets fan, go see my disappointment. I understand it's the third overall pick. I'm very happy. Like, listen, I am happy it wasn't number 5. It's just like I wanted to have control of our own destiny. We sucked this year. I thought Chet Holmgren would be the perfect pairing with Jalen Green and really watch this team not into playing but like upper lottery, and that's what I want for this team. I don't want to compete right now, but like I need some progress, and if these prospects want to get better, they need to be in those playoff positions where they're pushing and trying to become a better team. I understand you want to tank, you want to get the best prospects available, but at some point I want this team to start competing at a quicker level. I mean, we see what happens with the Memphis Grizzlies. They jump to the number 2 seed, and I think drafting in a draft like this could easily launch this team. But enough about the Rockets. We'll talk about them in a minute because we're going to go through the entire draft lottery, basically doing my first mock draft. This is a first raw mock draft. I'm not going to do it off the computer. I do have a screen right here that has like all the teams listed out and a bunch of prospects that comes with them. So I'm not going to just pull my screen away like I usually do with, like, say, the quiz videos I'll do, like things like that. So we're going to just go straight into it. The Magic got the number 1 overall pick. That's something that this franchise has done for years. I mean, it's back when they got Shaq and Penny Hardaway. Number 1 overall picks were just a common thing for them. But we have to talk about why Chet Holmgren is going to be the number 1 overall pick, because it is. You're going to pair Jalen Suggs, high school teammates in Minnesota, back together in Orlando. I think that's a dream pairing. I do have a lot of faith in Jalen Suggs. I think he is probably one of my favorite players coming out of last year's draft. I understand the Raptors made the fantastic choice of picking Scotty Barnes, the Rookie of the Year, when it was kind of a shock for a lot of people that Jalen Suggs wasn't the 4th overall pick. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. They made a fantastic decision. But I don't think Jalen Suggs is completely gone as a bust, as some people want to kind of project him to be. I do think he still has a lot of talent. He's just in a very interesting situation. Orlando is a very odd spot overall for any prospect to go into. I mean, you have Wendell Carter, who is your center that is a defensive anchor for the most part, which I think him and Chet could work out pretty well. I think both of them can shoot well enough to where you're not condensing enough spacing to a point where any of the guards can't get into the paint. You have, obviously, Franz Wagner, who is a fantastic 20-point per game scorer. He played fantastic. Not to mention Markelle Fultz, who can't stay healthy, but he is still a guy that can show some promise at times. Not to mention you have RJ Hampton, who I'm not too sure as he's shown enough potential to really be a top guy. I'm sure I'm missing a couple guys. You're going to move off of Terrence Ross, who is going to end up going to a contender, so you might be able to bring in some value back from that. And then you have Jalen Suggs. So I think that Chet Holmgren's the easy number 1 overall pick for them. You just need talent when you're the Orlando Magic. I don't know what this future looks like for them, but I think that pairing with Wendell Carter, you kind of build like a Cavaliers kind of rebuild. And now I think you just need a more shooting on that team, more consistent shooting, or a better just number 1 true guard, and maybe put Jalen Suggs at the 2. Or unless Jalen Suggs can show some more playmaking ability, I think him at the 1, and then you kind of build up a 2. This team's going to end up being at the top of the lottery next year anyways. I don't think they're going to be in the Wemby sweepstakes, so they're going to probably be in a Scoot Henderson sweepstakes, which I think will be a super interesting pairing if they ended up getting him. But I think this team is easily going to go with Chet. I think Jabari Smith could be an interesting fit, but I think you go with the best player available, and I think personally the best player in this draft is Chet Holmgren. Also, I got to speed through a lot of these picks. I don't want to be here for 15 minutes or 20, 30 minutes. You know, like, if you want me to talk about a certain team's pick, just let me know. I'll make a whole video about it. I don't care. Like, I love making videos off of y'all's ideas. So I'll make videos on, say, like, if I skim over the Spurs pick. If you want a whole video about the Spurs and what I think they should do with their draft, let me know down in the comments. I'll do it. But, obviously, I got a lot of hate on my last video. I got to the wrong audience. Thunder fans were not happy that I was hating on the Thunder. Listen, we're in the same division. We're in the same division. I am not a fan of the Thunder. The Rockets have gone against the Thunder many times in the playoffs. It has been tough, stupid series. Like the Patrick Beverley, Russell Westbrook. I'm not supposed to be a fan of the Thunder, and I've never been a fan of the Thunder. And we're in a battle for top picks. And when you get that 1 pick ahead of us, I do think they should go Jabari Smith. I think Jabari Smith is the best fit with Shea, with Giddey. You don't want to put the ball in, I would say, Jabari's hands a ton, because he does struggle creating his own shot when it's not just shooting over the guy that is shorter. I think if you get him on a smaller body, I think he can definitely dominate, and he has shown some fantastic defensive prowess. I think he is potentially going to be the best defender right there with Chet. just because of his size and his frame, and his lateral quickness is pretty solid. But there's just some red flags with Jabari that I'm not as high on as other people are. But I think if he's able to really like iron out his dribbling ability and create some more shots, I mean, the Thunder's got a deadly group. I think that they, at some point, we're going to have to start putting expectations for him because, I mean, you have Shea, you have Giddey, and now you would have Jabari Smith. I think he's a fantastic pairing. I think this is a fantastic pick for the Thunder. Let's move on. The Rockets, Paolo Banchero. I know you'd think I'm going to end up talking about the Rockets a ton. Paolo Banchero and Jalen Green, fantastic pairing. They're best friends. You have KPJ, Paolo, and Jalen Green, and Alfred Sengun and Jayshawn Tate, which I think you'd want to move Jayshawn Tate potentially. Plus, you get a later lottery pick in that round. It's a fantastic young core we move. I don't love it for moving into the future and contending, but I think it's going to be an exciting offensive team, probably one of the most exciting teams, young teams in the entire NBA. Next team up, you have the Kings. I think the Kings are a team that I might even make a whole video on because this team is so weird. You get rid of Tyrese Halliburton, so obviously you're letting De'Aaron Fox handle the guard position, but you don't want to bring in Jaden Ivey, who isn't a true shooter. I understand the Kings are not in a position to really deal with fit. I think if I was in the chair, I end up going with Jaden Ivey and figuring it out later. But at the same time, it's a weird fit with Jaden Ivey and De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. I think if I'm predicting, I would not be surprised if they went with Keegan Murray in a surprise pick. But since this is from the perspective of I'm in the chair of being the GM for these teams and what I would do with this pick, I go with best player available. You're not in a position to deal with fit. You deal with it later and then move off of guys like De'Aaron Fox and see. The problem is you also have Davion Mitchell. Like, do you want to deal with Davion Mitchell? I'm switching up my pick last minute. I think they end up going with Shaedon Sharpe, a guy that didn't play in college. He's a guy that I'm going to make a whole video on. I know I'm saying I'm going to make all these videos, but like Shaedon Sharpe is one of the most interesting stories in the entire NBA coming in. I think they end up going with him. I think that allows more or less you get Davion Mitchell more minutes, a guy that showed a lot of promise on the defensive side of the ball. But if, I wouldn't be surprised if they went Ivy. You just get the best player available here. Which allows for the number 5 overall pick, the Pistons, to have probably one of the most exciting backcourts in the entire NBA, in my opinion. Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham. I would love for this to happen. Listen, I understand Pistons and Rockets fans have butted heads in many, many times, especially last year. But, listen, I love Cade Cunningham. I wanted him on my team. And honestly, Jalen Green would have been a good fit in Detroit as well, even though he talked mess about them before the draft and after, and it's a whole thing. Listen, I'm not one to come here and just start talking mess about him. I think it would be a fantastic pairing. I mean, Jaden Ivey, the electricity of his dunks and his ferocity, plus Cade is still a viable shooter. I think it's a fantastic pairing. I have no problems with this pick. I love this. That's a dream scenario for the Pistons for the pick that they got. If Jaden Ivey falls to him, I could see Shaedon Sharpe being an interesting pick as well. Keegan Murray would be cool too, but I think Jaden Ivey, that's a dream pick for the Pistons. I think that's a fantastic call for them. With the 6th overall pick, I have the Indiana Pacers probably going AJ Griffin. I wouldn't be surprised Keegan Murray, obviously, who dropped 26 points per game. I think it'd be a really interesting fit there. Tyrese Halliburton and AJ Griffin, I think, would be really, really interesting. I think this team is obviously going to be in contention for the number 1 overall pick next year, which sucks for Tyrese because I love Tyrese Halliburton. I think he's a fantastic player. But I think when you get to the intangibles of AJ Griffin, it's the same thing with Cam Reddish where there's things where it just shows that he has a ton of potential. I think he's a better prospect coming out than Cam Reddish was, but I think that there's a lot of red flags with him. I think that if I'm in the position, I take the upside with AJ Griffin, a guy like Tyrese Halliburton who always gets everybody involved. I understand Keegan Murray is probably the safer prospect, but I think with the Pacers, you take probably the highest upside possible because, I mean, worst case, if it doesn't work out, you end up getting the number 1 overall pick and then you have another try because I think that they're not going to be a team that's going to be contending anytime soon. Pacers are going into full rebuild mode. I'm sure that this is also a team that I would not be surprised if they try to make a move trading up. You have Buddy Hield that you could easily package with this pick and potentially move up into a draft spot. I wouldn't be surprised if that was, or this honestly, for a team that is getting straight into a rebuild, don't be surprised if they try to trade back and try to get a lot more assets in this position because I don't think that the position that they're in this draft lottery is not one that they could get a guy that immediately impacts this team. I think that this is a very likely spot that they trade back, but if they do end up staying there, this is not any like predictions of a trade. I would probably go AJ Griffin here with the next pick. I have the Trailblazers ending up getting Keegan Murray. Listen, it's another score. It allows Damian Lillard to play like with another guy that's just going to go get a bucket, and that's what you like to see. I think that's a fantastic pick. Let's move on. I got to get through a lot more of these picks real quick. The Pelicans have the Lakers spot, which is the 8th overall pick. I think that this team could honestly go a lot of different directions, but I think honestly it goes back and forth between two guys for me who could potentially be this pick. And I'm looking to the right of me. I could easily see Jalen Duren potentially being a guy here. He is a freak of nature that could potentially jump up into this spot. Benedict Mathurin, I think, is a fantastic player for this team. But you have Herb Jones, you have CJ McCollum. I think he would struggle to get some minutes. I think he honestly could be a wing that could be very interesting coming off the bench. I think that you look at the power forward position, Keegan Murray is a guy that they would hope potentially would fall into this position. But honestly, you have Dyson Daniels, who has a ton of upside here. A ton of upside. This team is a prime team that could potentially be a trade back spot. But if I were to predict, I think Benedict Mathurin is a guy that you come in and you could plug him in, and he's an immediate impact guy, and that's something that you need for a playoff team. 9th overall pick, I have the Spurs, probably going Dyson Daniels. I understand that they have a couple of guards, but he's a guy that I think could slide easily into that wing position. And the Spurs have clearly had a lot of interest in guys that are young. Jalen Duren's a guy that I think could easily be in this spot as well. But I think that they like these young guys that have a ton of upside, and I think they would end up going with Dyson Daniels. Wizards, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they go Johnny Davis. I don't know. I don't know what the Wizards are going to do, to be honest. I think this is just a guess pick. Davis, sorry. 11th overall pick, I do have the Knicks going Jalen Duren because I do think Mitchell Robinson is being moved off of in this next upcoming offseason. So I think Jalen Duren is a high upside guy. We got to get through it. OKC, I think they go with Jeremy Sohan. You get another wing player, a guy that can score the ball pretty well and get a lot of rebounds. I think his defensive versatility would be clutch for them. Number 13, I have the Hornets going with Mark Williams. I think that's a fantastic pick for them. Mark Williams is a center. This is the void that they've had for many, many years. And I think he's a very athletic, freaky guy. If they get Mike D'Antoni, I don't know what they do. I don't think they would go with Mark Williams, but I think maybe Atari Eason. But I don't know. They have 2 first-round picks. Then for number 14, I have the Cavs. Sorry, I got to move this over real quick so I can see. The Cavs, I think they go Ochai Agbaji. I think Ochai Agbaji is a very clear prospect on how good he is, and they need something guaranteed, and he's just another scorer that you can bring off the bench. I think Ochai is one of the most underrated players in this entire draft. But if you're at this point in the video, we went through all 14 picks. If the lottery is 16, but I think it's 14. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you want me to deep dive on any of these prospects. I know this was a super long video, but thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.